Ok. Allora, benvenuti, spero che si senta. Facciamo un test. Perfetto, si sente? Benissimo. Ok, allora, è un meeting del Java User Group Torino. Questa sera ospitiamo Rosaria Rossini e Ivar Grimstad e avremo anche un'introduzione da parte di Andrea Bosio e di 011, The Martech Company. E niente, volevo ringraziarvi per essere qua. Prima di tutto abbiamo raggiunto 1000 iscritti al gruppo Meetup di Torino, quindi insomma niente male. E niente, godetevi la serata, sarà interessante. Andrea, a te.
Thank you very much. Grazie Simone. Thank you to everybody to join us. One second. My name is Andrea Bosio and my company is 011. We work in the AI from a lot of years and we are ready and happy that now the topic is very hot and very cool and very spread. So there is a lot of hype on this technology. We work in the MarTech field, so we work in order to allow our customer to sell better the product online, and we use all the technology that are available. So we use in Jakarta for our e-commerce platform, which is called Rewix, and we use Jakarta inside the platform. But my role is not a technician, but I work in the business development. And my focus today is on the market of AI. Since I saw there is a sort of tendencies and trends that I want to discuss with you, and I hope that these trends can be a useful point in order to develop the next of the presentation. So this is only an introduction that I already discussed before, so it's not important. But the most important thing is the next slide, where we have information about the hype of the AI. So in 23, we see that the generative AI was at the top of the curve and was at the top of the hype. If you go on the next slide, we see that generative AI is already declining. So it is moving on another part of the field, and other technology are becoming more important in the technology. But the trend that I want to discuss with you, since you are Java developer, is in the next one. So we see the Toby index that provides information about the decline of Java in terms of users and the upside of Python. So we need to compete with Python developers or something like that. And we see the numbers are very crazy and very scary for the Java developers, since there is a continuous declining of the use of Java. So my point as a business developer is for you to find a solution in order to work with Python and Java. So this is my point. So I need to find something that allow to all the guys from the tech industry of the Python, so for example, a physician or mathematician that are able to provide a lot of algorithm in Python, to use Java in order to provide an enterprise application that we are working on every day. The next slide provide a table. So I finished my short introduction. I want to discuss with you how we can use Python in Java, if it's possible. So my point that I hope that at the end of the presentation will be understandable for me. Okay, thank you very much.
I already mentioned, I will speak very quickly about Eclipse Foundation and this project that I'm following in Eclipse Foundation. I'm Rosaria Rossini. I'm a researcher project manager in Eclipse Foundation. I have a bachelor, master, and PhD in computer science. I'm in Eclipse Foundation since 2022, and I have more than 8-year experience in IoT research actually, because I was working in a research center in Torino, Links Foundation, that is in the Politecnico. I don't know if you know that. And I was also working on IoT, so I have a lot of experience on that. But I changed. And what I want to tell you about Eclipse is that Eclipse Foundation is not the ID that you know. I'm sure that you know, I'm sure that you use, I'm sure that maybe you hate that. But it's not that. The good news is that you are not so far away, because Eclipse ID is contained in Eclipse Foundation. So in Eclipse Foundation, we have a lot of projects, more than 400 projects, open source projects. So you can go there, download that, and use it, okay? And one of these projects is Eclipse ID. These are some important dates for Eclipse Foundation. As you can see, I don't know if you know, but I didn't know that. Eclipse ID was already happening before 2001. okay? It was inside IBM. It was a development from IBM. What happens is that then IBM decide to release this one, like open source, and say, okay, that's fine, this is stable, we like that, we'll use that, but the other can have that. And they release them, okay? They release it. What happens is that IBM published the Eclipse ID. And a lot of big players start using it for development. And at a certain point, they decide, like 3 years later, they decide that they don't want that the idea that they are using, this technology that they are using, is so tied to a big organization like IBM. So what IBM decide is that I like this product, I like that the others take care of my product because this is open source. So if I'm giving you my code, you can develop on my code. So it's like a community, you can share the code, and you can maintain the code, my code, you can maintain my code, you can maintain my code. So what happened is that they decide, IBM decide that they found a foundation, the Eclipse Foundation, and the first project was Eclipse ID. And then the magic starts, the magic begins, actually. I will not bore you with the rest of the story, but Eclipse Foundation now it's in Europe. We have big number. We are one of the largest open source foundation. And these are some numbers about open source Eclipse Foundation. And as you can see, we have more than 420 open source code, like MQTT. Maybe you know that. And we have for 21 industry collaboration, we have more than 20 years of innovation. We have a lot of members, more than 360, and these numbers are all free and transparent on our website, as well as, I don't have here, which are our members, big members. For example, we have IBM, we have Microsoft, we have Mercedes, we have a lot of big members that contribute to our code. Okay, why you need open source in a project? You need open source. This happen, actually you don't need open source. This happen in a consortium, in an European project, but this happen in every other work, right? You have a software vendor that wants some product and expertise, you have some industry, you have some researchers. These actors actually play together with technology transfer, innovation, product expertise. But all of this comes to the same place. That is a shared platform. If you want to work with this player, you need a shared platform. Usually, that's why open source is here, because this shared platform could be an open source platform in which not only this actor can play openly and freely to the same idea, but you can also include more actors, and it will be like a community then, okay? So this is a kind of business model that you create around that. So as you can see, the big orange box in the middle is what we saw here, the open source platform that allow everyone to collaborate together, right? And this is the open source platform. On the bottom part, these are the particular service that Eclipse Foundation gives on this platform. Okay, so community governance and processes, IP management and licenses, because it's important. Spoiler alert, license is really important, even in open source. Even more in open source, because you are getting away your code. And if you don't use a license, it's like you abandon them. And everyone can take it and can, I mean, it's not a matter of it's mine, but it's a matter how you use my code, if you care about that, of course. And then we have ecosystem development, infrastructure for open collaboration, as well as supply chain security. That is a big, big, big word right now. It's big part of every industry software development. And then on top of this That is, these two layers are the basis on which you can start, okay, your open source development. You have your product added value. What it means? That there is the market. There is the service that you sell on top of this. You have a lot of examples like Red Hat, like, I don't know, you can take open source and you can make a service out of it, and you can sell your service, your expertise. You can have a plugin more, and you can sell a plugin that is not open, but the base is open. So I don't want to take a lot of time, but we are moving on my project. This is an European project, and it's about skills. So actually, Skill Lab is the name of the project, and what we want to do that is to deliver an open source skill demand supply identification, analysis, and prediction hub for citizens, enterprises, academia, and policymakers. As you can see, these are 3 pilot cases that we are running in this project, and Eclipse Foundation is one of them. Why? Because skills are important, and I miss again. We have a classification of skills. We have hard skill, and all of you here have an hard skill of Java, for example. And we have soft skills that are creativity, collaboration, leadership, communication. That is something less explicit, usually, because in the CV you don't say, I can talk with people without offending them. But this is a skill. I can assure you, I had to learn that because it's really, really difficult. Don't offend people when you are angry. So this classification brings us to a question, specifically Eclipse Foundation to a question. What do you need for open source? Soft or hard skill? Our answer to this is that we need more soft skill, because to be in a community, if you know how works a community, right? You need to have a lot of soft skill. You need to be respectful. You need to answer every time. You need to have a good communication skill, because you cannot say, your code doesn't work. Great, thank you. Okay, and now what we have to do? We can start offending each other. That is always a good idea. Or we can start communicating and say, okay, see, I found this problem, blah, and maybe you can do that. Okay, let's try that. This is a soft skill under your technical skill, that is your knowledge on Java. But this is something that in Eclipse Foundation we want to, it's not explicit, okay? So this is the consortium, if you are interested in that. So my question is that I'm asking to a lot of developers what they are thinking about soft and hard skill. So if you can help me with this survey today, we will try to see if it's true that soft skills are more important than hard skill in open source. Because you can actually consider that in open source, the hard skills are also training. Because I'm sharing with you the fact that there is a bug, okay, in your code. We found a bug, so we need to study together to solve that. Or you need to study, or I found a bug, a bug in your code, and I'm studying how to solve it. I solve it, and I push the code. So you learn something more. This is something technical, okay? Okay, so if you want to take this survey, you can also just take your phone, take this survey, and you can do at home tomorrow morning at breakfast. That's also fine. And it will be something great for me. So when I have the results, I can send to Simone. So maybe you can be curious about that. Also, another information about skills and open source is that if you look at the labor market, a lot of people are more, let's say that is an easy way to find a job if you already know how to contribute to an open source code. Because basically, if you are a developer, even if it's not open source in your industry, you will need to share code with other people, right? It's the same thing. You need to communicate, you need to document your code, and you need to work with the same repository. Maybe it's private, it's not open like that, like Eclipse Foundation Open Code. And that's it on my side. So you finally have your Java champion. And also Jakarta is part of Eclipse Foundation, by the way. So you are all part of the big family of Eclipse Foundation if you are using Jakarta. And this will answer your question, how you can use Java for AI.
So we could talk about how to call Python from Java, but I won't do that. It is easy, and it's getting better because with the new native, what's the project? Is it Panama or whatever? One of the, yeah. So that will make it much easier to call native libraries. So to call Python libraries from Java is kind of getting easier and easier. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today, because I'm going to talk about how to do Jakarta EE from your enterprise application, and I'm going to assure you don't want to need Python. You don't need Python. So if you saw that curve that Python is getting popular, well, just forget it and go back to Java and stay there and and have fun. So my name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation, and this is Jakarta EE Meets AI. So if you want to follow me on social media, you can use any of these channels, whatever favorite you are. As I said, I'm a Java champion. I'm an Oracle Ace Pro. I represent the Eclipse Foundation in the executive committee in the JCP, and I'm also a Apache NetBeans committer. So we had the Eclipse IDE, we have NetBeans, and I'm going to use IntelliJ. So we have everything represented there. And I run a Java user group in Malmö in Sweden. So that's enough about me. Let's do a history lesson. And let's start in 1995. And who here was born in 1995, or not born in 1995? Yeah, so two of you, you're younger than Java. Yeah? Java is 30 years next year. And that's pretty cool. And we're still the dominating language. You can look at these graphs and see that Python is gaining. But if you look at what's generating the money in the world, it's Java. That's where the financial and banks and everything enterprises are running on. That's Java. But Java was actually intended to be on tablets. It was made for a tablet to make animations and UI. But it didn't really catch on. It was on a server. It kind of gained momentum. And that was J2E came in 1999 to address that. And J2E was a tremendous success. And if it hadn't been for J2E back in 1999, we wouldn't have been here at the Java user group. We would have been at the C# user group or something else, because Java would have been dead. But J2E has its faults, and it was kind of complicated over engineers. So Spring Framework came around in 2004 to address some of these issues. And Java EE modernized itself as well. It became Java EE from J2E. Anybody still saying J2E or getting messages from recruiters wanting J2E developers? Well, in 2006, it changed name. That's how long it takes. It's 18 years ago. And people still say J2E. That's the importance of that technology. But now it's been Java EE for a long time. And in 2009, the Spring folks created JSR 330, which was add inject and auto-wired, so you can use them interchangeably in Spring, and brought the dependency injection by annotations into Java. Over the line after that, Java EE7 came around in 2013, and that was a good platform, and that kind of leveled the playing field a little bit with Spring. But then Spring Boot came, and you never looked back, and that's the dominating player today. And Jakarta EE was created in 2017. We did the namespace change in 2020, And if you're a Spring developer or anybody else who've been affected by this, so you know about the namespace, we're not going to do that again, but yeah, you never know. And later this year, we're going to release Jakarta 11. So it has been a development ago now. So this was a brief 29-year history of Java. So Java is 38 next year, so join the celebrations there. Java is the specification, and so is Jakarta EE. And Jakarta EE is a lot of specifications. And when we talk about specifications in Jakarta EE and in these kind of technologies, it's a human-readable document in PDF or HTML that describes the technology. And it's an API artifact in Maven Central that we as developers are using. It's a TCK or test compatibility kit that we use to verify that an implementation implements a specification. And when it does that, it's a compatible implementation. And we need at least one open source compatible implementation to ratify a final specification in Jakarta EE. From there on, it can be any license, but at least one open source. The current version is Jakarta EE 10. And this is how Jakarta EE 10 looks like. You can see there are, since we didn't do any API changes with Jakarta EE 9 where we did the namespace change to make that migration easier, there were a lot of changes that were kind of waiting. So we did a lot of updates in 10. And if we compare that to 11, we kind of continue that with a lot of updates. About the same amount of specification, a little fewer, are receiving updates. And those that are gray here and not receiving updates, it's not because they are dead or anything. It's just they're right now good as they are. But next release, they may receive some updates. And let's talk a little bit about Jakarta EE 11 before we go into the AI stuff. And the Jakarta EE 11 platform is a specification on its own and contains all these specifications here. And that is basically everything you need to create an enterprise application. And if we peel away the more enterprise-y flavored of them, we're left with a web profile. And web profile is a subset of the platform, and it has the more traditional web applications, the specification you would need for that. You have everything from security to persistence and web UIs and whatnot. And if we take a subset of that, in Jakarta EE 10, we introduced the core profile. And that's the first time we introduced a new profile since Java EE 6. And the core profile is targeting microservices or headless clients or headless services. And the key specification here is CDI Lite, which is a subset of CDI again. And CDI Lite removes all the stuff that is dynamically resolved at runtime with CDI usually, and can resolve it at compile time, so we can build with the GraalVM to create native images. Jakarta 11 is based on Java SE 17. That is the API level we compile the APIs for, and that's also the source level that we use. So we don't use features newer than 17 in the APIs exposed there. But we run the TCK on 17 and 21, so we verify that it actually works on 21, and it works actually on later versions as well. We're establishing a release cadence where they release about 6 to 9, maybe a year after a LTS of Java. So Java 21 was in September last year. So this year we released Jakarta 11. Java 25 is September next year. So in 2026 we will release Jakarta 12. So that's sort of what we're aiming for. Jakarta 11 has been feature complete since in May. All the specifications are released. They all have compatible implementations. We have, Simon here is doing Jetty. So Jetty is a compatible implementation, or I think, or at least of Serverless 6.1. So all of them are out there. Hibernate is a compatible implementation of persistence. So we have them all out. It's available in Maven Central. You can use them. It's already been picked up by Spring Framework. Any Spring developers there? You're all Jakarta developers or Java developers. Yeah. So milestone 4 was what we released in May. So that's what's available now. But we hope to get the other ones out in December, in the final versions. So later. in this here. So AI then. So Jakarta EE 11 has a lot of technologies that you can use to integrate with AI systems. So you don't really need anything external. So I'll go through a couple of those here, and then I'll start doing some demos. So RESTful web services is one. Because all the LLMs out there, in my demos, I'm going to use OpenAI. You can just replace it with any other. They all have REST APIs, so you can just call them with a regular REST client that is provided by RESTful web services. So whether it's an internal language model you have or it's an external one or whatever, it is usually just a regular REST interface. And the technologies for calling REST services has been around for a long time in Jakarta RESTful web services. So this is where you can find more information about the specification. In the latest version, we're doing some cleanup stuff, removing some optional dependencies and mentally preparing to deprecate and get rid of the native component model. So it's fully embracing CDI. Also some convenient stuff and here and there. CDI, another one I'm going to use in these demos to make it more convenient for us as Jakarta developers. What they do in the latest version of CDI, it's kind of a minor release, but they add support for records and seal types, and also add priority on producers. So that's kind of the stuff they update there. They're also moving the integration requirements from the CDI spec to the platform spec, but that's sort of a housekeeping thing. So we're taking the EJB stuff from CDI and moving it over to the platform where it sort of belongs. That also makes it easier to get rid of EJB later if we want to do that. JSON binding doesn't get updates in 11, but it's also a specification I'll use now because it's JSON we send back and forth, and JSONB is for serializing JSON to Java. JSON processing is the manual way of doing it. JSONB is more convenient. We also have a new specification in Jakarta 11. This is not super relevant for today, but I just wanted to show you that we do have this specification, and that is Jakarta data. And Spring developers, you recognize this, right? So this is how Spring data looks like. But this isn't Spring data, this is Jakarta data. So it's very easy for you to actually move over to Jakarta if you want to do that. But we do more. So Jakarta data is offering more than Spring data in some sorts. And that is, we add the Jakarta data query language, or JDQL, which is a subset of the Jakarta persistence query language. And this language makes it possible to add annotations on your queries, and you can write all the annotations in different annotations. This is the @query annotation. It's @select, @find, whatever. It's a whole language on its own, so you don't have to rely on the name of the method. And there is an opportunity there. If you're a developer who want to be a hero in open source and make a career in open source, a name, go to Apache Foundation and do a project that implements Jakarta data, because they don't have it yet, and they want it. We do have Eclipse link at Eclipse Foundation, but it doesn't implement data yet. So Eclipse Foundation is also a place where it can be contributed. And there is an implementation in Hibernate, there is one in Open Liberty, so it's easy to just look at that code and just create an implementation. So, AI then. And I want to do this by doing demos. So I don't have much more slides. I have a couple of backup slides. But so as I talked about, I mean, if you're running this in the same JVM and want to just call AI directly, there are Java libraries to do that. Or you can use the native functionality to call Python directly. But we usually in enterprises call it to a service somewhere. So everything here would be over HTTP to some AI service. And in my examples, I'll use OpenAI. And there are lots of technologies out there providing this stuff for us, and Spring AI is one of them. Anybody using Spring AI looked at it? Okay, so Spring AI is actually pretty cool. And the way it works is that you create a Spring application and then you can call something, and I'll call OpenAI here. So is this, I'll beef up the font a little bit so we can see this. So here I have a Spring AI application, and it is a Spring 3.3.5, which is the latest version of Spring Boot. I'm running on 23. It has a milestone 3 of Spring AI. That is fairly new. I think it was kind of last week or something. And it has the starter for the web, because I'm creating a RESTful endpoint. And also have the OpenAI Spring Boot starter. So if you're using something else than OpenAI, you would use Spring AI, whatever else starter. Like if you're using Azure or Grok or whatever all of these are called. Right? So these are the two Spring Boot starter dependencies you have. The other thing is just the standard Spring Boot app. And if I look at the application, it's just a Spring Boot application, so nothing new there. And I have this REST controller that exposes a endpoint that responds to HTTP GET, and it receives a message in, and that message is the message I'll send to the AI service. And here I could have done everything in this class, but there is a reason, and I'll get to that later, why I've split out this Spring AI service in a different class. And you can see it's just a regular Spring component with the @component annotation. So it's nothing, it could have had the @service annotation, but it's just a Spring bean. So there's nothing here. And here is where I can integrate with the Spring AI. So what I can do there is I can auto-wire in the chat client builder. And when I have the builder available, I can use this one to call OpenAI. So I'll do the builder, I'll build it. That's usually what you do with the builder. And I'll prompt. And the prompt I'll send is the message. And from the message, I'm doing a call to the OpenAI. So it's a very fluent API. And then I'll get the content that I receive from it. So that is all I have to do to call an AI. There is one configuration you have to do. And that is you have to give it your API key to OpenAI. So you have to have an account there. And of course, I'm not showing that key to you here. So it's in a system variable, but this is how you configure it, either on your as a environment variable or in the Spring config. So that is all that you need to do. So that's fairly simple, right? There's no Python there. So if I take this one, maven clean. Oh, sorry. I've always wondered why aren't these level? You get kind of yeah. So I'll run this one, Java jar target Spring AI. So it starts up, and then I'm going to call it from my here, and I'll just call it tell me a joke. That's the message I'll send it in. So what it does now is it sends a message to OpenAI, and I forgot I'm in Italy, so let's do it in Italian. So it will write a bad joke that it gets from OpenAI. So it's just one line of code, right? And I have all this stuff in my application. So that's cool. But we're not here to talk about Spring. We're here to talk about Jakarta EE, and Quarkus is sort of I wouldn't say evil child of Jakarta EE. It's a good thing, but they don't really implement all the stuff. And we're using Quarkus. Yeah. So Quarkus is actually pretty cool, and Quarkus have added some AI support that is more in the kind of the flavor of Jakarta EE, because they use CDI or their version of CDI. So Quarkus is very similar to Spring Boot. You just give it a lot of properties there, like Java version and stuff, and a couple of dependencies. And here I have the REST, because I'm doing the REST endpoint, the JSON to serialize, and then the Quarkus LangChain for J OpenAI. That is there. And of course I could use Quarkus LangChain and another AI, but now it's OpenAI. The configuration here is sort of exactly the same as for Spring. You just have to give him the API key. And the code here looks much better. This is how you create the Spring Boot application or the Quarkus application. It's just saying, oh, it's not this one. Here's the resource. I just give it the @path annotation. That's the @rest controller in Spring. And I inject a JUG AI service just to have the same, the Spring service I had. And it's a getter that produces text. And I just return what the AI service does with this message. And the AI service just has this annotation. @register AI service, that takes care of everything for you. And then I can have and it's an interface, so I don't even implement anything. And I give it a method call, and I annotate this message with @user message. I can do a lot more with @system message and all sort of stuff. I'm just doing the defaults there. So that is how Quarkus works. And if I do the same kind of call here, I'll do Quarkus, Maven clean package. I can actually do Maven clean package Quarkus run for this one. So I'll just run it directly. And it starts fairly quickly as well. And then I can do the same call, getting a joke here or in the Italian. So it's even simpler than Spring, but kind of on the same thing. Spring has their own implementation. Quarkus is LangChain for J. So what about Jakarta EE then? If I just want to use Jakarta EE and I don't want to use Quarkus, I don't want to use Spring, and I don't just want to use Jakarta EE. Remember what I said, it's just a REST call. So if I go look at the API for OpenAI and look at the chat here, it has a good description of what everything is. It says call this one chat completion, send it this JSON in, and this is what you'll get back. So it's just a regular REST endpoint, and you can probably get some Swagger or something and just generate it for you, or you can do it manually, right? So we've called REST endpoints since REST was the thing after XML web services, so we kind of know that. And if we're going to call the REST stuff here, I'll just I'll first look at the application. So it is a Jakarta EE 11 application. I'm using the M4. I'm using it on Java 23. And this is the beauty of Jakarta EE. I just have this provided dependency, so I don't drag in a lot of stuff. The implementations are provided by, the specification are provided by the implementation. And here I've configured up 3 different ones. I can run it with Liberty here. I can use it with Payara or Wildfire. So I'm just using these application servers. And the code here is something we can look at. So this is how we configure a Jakarta REST application. It's just the application path and extend the Jakarta core application. Then I have the REST resource. It's just a getter that produces text plain, same as the Quarkus thing. Takes in the message and returns something. And what it returns here is the OpenAI client call OpenAI with a message, and the OpenAI client is just a regular CDI bean that I've created. It's request scoped, and this is where I'm going to do the magic. And as you remember from this one, I can use JSON processing here and parse the JSON manually, or you can use JSONB and just do it. Let the magic happen. And if I create a object with random names, I would have to annotate it with JSONB annotation to kind of map to the corresponding JSON value. But if I have a Java object that directly with the method names or the field names maps to that JSON structure, it will automatically go and don't have to annotate that class with anything. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create one completion object and one completion response. It's the input and output to the AI service. And of course, I'm not going to write all that, so I'll just, I've cheated a little bit there, so I'll do the completion. And this is kind of the manual labor you would have to do. And I'm only doing the fields I'm interested in, and that is the content. So I'm just adding the other stuff to be able to parse to the content, or to send in the stuff. And the same way, I'm going to do the completion response. Like this. So I have these two classes. So now I have the input and output to the REST service. I can then go and populate the request. So I'm creating a completion and just setting use GPT-4 as a user and send a message in. And then I'll just instantiate the Jakarta REST client that comes from Jakarta REST. And I'm going to do the get the response back from it. So I'm going to call, demo response there. So I'm taking this client, calling the endpoint from the documentation, saying it's JSON, giving it my key, and it's JSON I get back into the completion object. And then from this I can return the content from this completion response. So I'm reading the entity into a completion response class and navigating the structure. Of course, this can be a null pointer exception and everything, but yeah, it's the demo. So this is all I have to do, these three things: create the request, send it, and back. And this is something we've done for ages. It's just a REST call. And since we're all doing microservices, that's what we do. And so let's run this one in, let's do it in Wildfly. Takes Jakarta AI, clean package, Liberty to run. Oh, sorry. There we go. No, wait a second. I'll use Liberty Dev because that's a dev mode that it will pick up changes, so I don't have to restart it every time. It's a little slower to start, but then you get the developer feedback loop that is faster. So there, it should be up and running. So I can do then the call to the AI, and it works. Right? They're a little bit different how the format of the answers are, and that's because since I'm using the defaults for these models, some of them are calling the GPT-4, some of them are calling GPT 3.5, and some are so since I'm not specifying anything, I get what I get. So this is good, right? But it's a little bit verbose, a little bit tedious to write these response and request objects. So we can do better. Luckily, there is something called LangChain4j. Anybody use LangChain4j? Yeah. So LangChain4j is sort of the de facto standard, or one of them that one of the libraries out there that has been most successful. And it's gaining a lot of traction. And LangChain4j is very easy to use with Jakarta EE. So I can now go into my code again and say, this stuff here with all this, this class here is a little bit too complicated. So I want to do it easier. And to do that, first, I'm going to add some dependencies. I said you never have to have a dependency in Jakarta EE. That's if you can rely on the standard libraries. But if you use a library, then you have to add the library. So demo LangChain dependencies. So I'm going to add this, and I think the latest version is 35. So it's fairly new stuff. It's 0.35.0. So it's not like it's a 1.0 or 2.0 or something. So it's a fairly new library. And when I have that, I can use this directly rather than returning this call OpenAI thing. I can now use LangChain for J and call. No, I don't even need this client any longer, and I don't need the completion or the completion response. I'll just keep it there so we can remember it. So now what I do is I create an OpenAI language model with the API key, get the API key, and then I model generate message and get content. So that's kind of the same thing that I did. The libraries I added is the core LangChain for J stuff, and it's the library for the service I'm using. So if you're using something else, you would add a different there. And there are actually a lot of them available. So whatever library you're using, you can just choose one. And here as well, it's, you see, so I just gave it the API key from the system. So if everything here works, this one should have picked up and redeploy this app. So now I can call this one and do it through LangChain for J. So that is even easier. So now we're kind of closing in to how it looks in Quarkus and in Spring. So the code now that we're seeing now is these two lines, and that's kind of, we're getting there, but we're still not quite there yet, because we like to use dependency injection, and we don't like these to create objects like the LangChain for J stuff. So we want to wrap it in CDI and use CDI for it, and luckily that's easy as well. And I think there are work ongoing to actually add CDI support in the LangChain libraries. But while we're waiting for that, and now I'll just for fun, I'll run it in a different server. So I'll just stop this one. So if I want to run this in CDI, what I can do is I'll create a new class here. I'll call it, I'll just call it OpenAI Producer. It doesn't really matter what it's called. I'll also give it a CDI scope. I'll do the application scope. It could be a request or anything else, but yeah, let's just use application. And then I'm going to have a method here that is going to return an OpenAI language model, no parameters. And I'm going to annotate this with the producers annotation. And here, there are two producers in Jakarta EE. So just the right one, just the CDI one, and not the one that is producing JSON or text for REST endpoints. So it's the Android inject producer. And then I can, this code I have here, I can just copy this over here. Did this, it's not the, I'll just return the model. So I'm creating the model and returning it. So I'm doing exactly the same thing as I did in the code. And then rather than doing all this, I can now inject this. Just add inject, private language one, I'll call it model. Like that, and I don't need this to create this, because now I inject it from CDI. And now I'll start to run it in Payara. So Payara is also an implementation of Jakarta EE. It's a little slower to start up, but Payara has different versions of their application server. They have the full version that I'm using here. They have a web version that is only the web profile. And they also have a Payara micro that implements just a subset of the specifications. And it's very low footprint, so it's perfect for containers. So it's now up and running, and I can do the same call, and now I'm using CDI. to call it. That's pretty cool. It's not that much code. I'm just injecting it and calling the model. But what if I really like Spring AI? And I want to use it, but I still want to use Jakarta EE because that's the best platform for your enterprise applications. So you can actually use Spring AI with Jakarta EE as well. So I'll show this little trick for you. And there are a couple of things you need to do and think of. And that is a Spring Boot application, even though it's a jar, it's not the traditional jar that you can use as a dependency. Because the Spring Boot Maven plugin does some magic there. So the correct approach here would probably be to take this component here and just have it as a Spring library or just a regular Java library, and then you can inject it or depend on it everywhere. But you can also take a Spring Boot application and just transform it to that kind of dependency you want. But there are some things you need to do in the POM. First of all, I can't run the Spring Boot Maven plugin because that's the one who messes up the jar. So I'll just delete that one. And since I'm not creating a Spring Boot application, I cannot execute the tests either. So the test has to gone. And since I'm not able to execute the tests, I must make sure that I don't have any tests and since I deleted it in a demo yesterday, I don't have tests. So we don't have any tests. So now I should be able to take this one, let me see, stop the Priora, and install it in my Maven repository so I can consume it from the Jakarta application. If this one will die, come on. Okay, let's let it go. And if I go to the Spring AI and do Maven clean install rather than package. So I'll install it in my Maven repository. And then I can, in the Jakarta application, now since I'm using Spring AI, I can remove the LangChain4j stuff. I don't need that. But I'll just keep it because I have things that wouldn't compile otherwise here. So I have to add this dependency, and it will be the Duke's Spring AI with the version number that I just created. So I'll just add the Spring application as a dependency, a direct dependency in my Jakarta application. And then in order to use it rather than use the OpenAI LangChain4j model, I'll do the same trick and create a producer for this. So I'll create a Spring AI producer. And this producer is going to be exactly the same way as the one I had for the LangChain4j. I'm going to have a produces annotation. I'm going to return a Spring AI service, and this Spring AI service that's the one I created here, right? This component. That is the one I'm going to return from my producer, and this one can be a get Spring AI service. And here I'm going to do a couple of things. So first of all, I just need to have the Spring context available for me. And this is the annotation config application context. And I get this from the transitive dependency from my Spring AI component that I just dragged in. And with this one, I can now take take the Spring context that I'm having and register the Spring AI application. And this is the Spring AI application here, the Spring Boot application. So I register that one with the Spring context and refresh the context. And then in my producer method, I can now, let me see, demo. where's my guess the Spring service? Oh, sorry. Why won't this one worked? Demo. Is it because it doesn't compile? Oh, sorry. Ah, crap. Journal, I'll just do this, and then a demo. Why? Always. So here I have it, produce the Spring. So, okay, so I had the entire method. So I create this producer method, and from this Spring context, I get the Spring AI service. Like it's registered through the Spring Boot application, and I then can get the Spring AI service. And then I can in this one just do a add inject private Spring AI service like this, and now I can do the Spring. No, I can rather than doing the let's call this model rather. So now rather than using the OpenAI language model, I can now do the Spring model, and this was a call with a message, and this one returns the content. So, and this is the exact same thing as I did in the Spring application, Spring as service call. So now I'm calling it directly from the Jakarta application, and let's see if this works. So if this one has stopped, we'll start it again, and wait for it to go. So this is kind of one of the things that we do because we can. It's not necessarily something you should do in production unless you really know what you're doing. Because why on earth would you use Spring AI in Jakarta EE when there are other alternatives that are more Jakarta EE friendly? But it works. It is a viable option if there is something in Spring AI that you really need and really want. And then you can actually do call OpenAI through Spring like this. That's pretty cool. There's also a product called Helidon. Anybody use Helidon? Heard of it? So Helidon is Oracle's Quarkus or Spring Boot. It's an open source. It's free. It's extremely fast. It's built with from Java 21 with virtual threads from bottom up. So it has a extremely good throughput, and it's also an implementation of Jakarta EE core profile, and it's actually certified on it. So this is a real implementation of Jakarta EE that is fairly fast and pretty good to use. And the Helidon, it looks very similar to the Quarkus thing. Here, I'm using LangChain for J directly. I'm also dragging in the Spring component. That's kind of if you go on the GitHub afterwards, the fixes I did to this Spring Boot application to be able to inject it is something I've done in the Spring component, so you can look at it directly. And it has some stuff for JSON binding, logging and stuff. So it's very similar to how you would set up a Quarkus or Spring Boot application. And it has, it's a Jakarta REST. It has the same like REST service. Here I show that you can use the OpenAI model or the Spring model. Both works with this one. Or you can use it directly or via CDI. So it has all the stuff that I've done. You can use with Helidon as well. So for example, if I wanted to use this the OpenAI model, like I can use that or Spring, as I say. And this one it starts a little bit faster. So let's go see. This one can stop. There we go. syntax have it on AI, even clean package, and jar and targets. So you can see it starts fairly quick, and it has has the same support as the others. So you see, you don't need Python. You have all these alternatives. You can use Spring even with Jakarta EE. So Jakarta 10 is the current version of Jakarta EE. This is how it looks like. Jakarta 11 is just around the corner. If you're a Spring developer, the next version of Spring will have quite a few of these Jakarta 11 APIs in there. Some of them are probably already there, such as Hibernate and Servlets. In 2020, we did Jakarta 9. In 2022, we introduced Core Profile in Jakarta 10. In 2024, we're embracing records and adding Jakarta data, making it more CDI-centric. So you can see we have this 2-year release cadence of Jakarta. And the focus of Jakarta 11 is developer productivity and performance. And I think you can see it's a fairly easy, good programming model. So we as Java developers can produce a lot of code easily. And it's fairly performant. This is a Java version it's based on. So you can use 21 or 23 as I was using now. But it will be certified on 17 and 21. That's the first. It works perfectly well with AI. Any library you want. I showed LangChain for J. There are other libraries you can use. So if you want to learn more about Jakarta EE, I have a course on LinkedIn. You can get that link for free if you connect with me on LinkedIn. And more about Jakarta EE is on Jakarta EE website. We have a starter at start.jakarta.ee where you can generate a project like the one I was using now. And if you want to look at the different approaches to call AI from Jakarta, you can check out the Duke AI GitHub repository on my profile there. And if you want to learn more about me, you can look at the developer advocate pages on Jakarta. So with that, I thank you very much for listening. I have a couple of beanies here. One is for the first survey, and the second is for the first question. Any questions? Who was the first? Who has solved the survey? Who was first? In the middle there. Okay, a beanie for you. Who else want a beanie? You can ask, can I have a beanie? That's a valid question.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyone? I'm not bringing it home. So otherwise Simone will get it. So if you don't want him to have it, then yeah, I can throw it away. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. So.